Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are breaking down the Dallas Cowboys 2024 season. We're going to give our absolute ceiling and floor for the Cowboys and what you should expect from them. But before we get into it, if you have not already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tackle that bell to get notified when new videos come out. We have content coming out every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And once when the season starts, we're going to have weekly Cowboys prediction videos that you're not going to want to miss. So be sure to like this video, subscribe, and also tackle that bell. Ryan, quickly, I think before we get into the schedule, let's quickly just recap what the Cowboys have done this offseason. And by the looks of it, not much at all. They re-signed Ezekiel Elliott, which is going to sell a lot of jerseys. But in general, though, it's really just their draft class. They're the people that come in. They've re-signed people. Supposedly, too, I think I heard rumors as of today, which we're recording this on July 30th, that CeeDee Lamb might get a contract extension, just like how a lot of other people got contract extensions as well. So congratulations on him. But in general, though, I think I'm curious to see what you think that they improved on, because I can only think of just what has left. And a lot of it went to Washington, including Dan Quinn. So,
yeah,
you think they improved on anything? I will say the only area, they did sign Eric Kendricks, the linebacker from the Los Angeles Chargers, to replace Leighton Vander Esch. So, if anything, it maybe was just a lateral move to just fill in a void.
I think maybe in the running back room they improved. Tony, not Tony Hinchcliffe. He didn't do anything for Dallas Cowboys. Tony Pollard. I was watching Kill Tony before we recorded. So, but Tony Pollard, he didn't have a great year last year. So they go out, they get Ezekiel Elliott, they go get Royce Freeman, and those two guys, I think, bring a more formidable running attack than what Tony Pollard did. And I do think you look offensively, they got Cooper Beebe and Tyler Guyton in the draft. And they got a Nathan Thomas in like the 7th round. So I'm not really counting that one. But I do think they added some depth there. Tyler Smith is pretty good. But you look, they lost Tyler Biotish. Tyron Smith left, even though I know he hasn't played a full season in like 3 years. So all in all, I think they have some upside on that running game. I do think it's going to be probably more like short yardage running game stuff. But all in all, I don't know if there's a lot I can say that they improved on. I just look at this list of guys that left, and it's like Tyler Biotish, Tyron Smith. I already said Michael Gallup, Dorrance Armstrong, Jonathan Hankins, Neville Gallimore, Dante Fowler, and then some other guys. But Stephon Gilmore is on that list. He was their top corner last year after Trayvon Diggs went down. So all in all, I think, yeah, they might have added a couple pieces. They didn't have a lot of cap space. I do think that they regressed this offseason. And you look at what Green Bay was able to do to this defense in the playoffs, and I think it's not promising, especially now that Dan Quinn is gone, that what they'll be able to do. So,
yeah, I'm very curious to what this new defense is going to look like, because they definitely some weak spots were shown even under Dan Quinn's regime there. And so now that all being said, I know the start of this video was negative, but they are still the NFC East champs. There is still a possibility as well. Luckily, I think for them, the NFC East is also going to be weaker. Philadelphia still has some vulnerabilities, and are they going to continue to be the team that we saw in the second half of the season? Washington and the Giants are at minimum, you could say they're in a rebuild. Well, Washington's definitely in a rebuild, but the Giants, I think you can probably still say they're still in a rebuild, but definitely trying to figure some things out. So still possibilities for them to win the division. These division games are always tough here. And I think, too, let's start off with these first 6 games as well in the 2024 schedule. So starting off week 1 at Cleveland. You'll be watching that game because your boy, first game commentating from the booth. That actually will be fun to watch. Week 2, hosting New Orleans. Week 3, hosting Baltimore. Week 4, Giants on a shortened week on Thursday Night Football. Week 5 at Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football, and then Week 6 at Detroit. It's a pretty tough schedule to start. I will say, I think worst case scenario is probably going to be 2-4. And I think best case scenario, I think, will probably be 4-2. I think Detroit's going to beat them, and I do think that Baltimore is going to beat them as well. I think that's going to be really tough for both of those teams. But everything else, though, is winnable. But there's also, I can see some potential flaws, especially even to that Cleveland game. I think that Cleveland game could be very tough.
I think especially for a team with a restructured offensive line that's going to most likely feature 2 rookies, and a team that really all of their production from the wide receiver spot came from one player last year in CD Lamb. I think Cleveland is a horrible matchup. I really think their ceiling is 3-3 through these first 6 games, just because I think Cleveland, this defense is going to dominate this offense. Baltimore is going to be too good of a team. I think Detroit is going to be too good of a team, especially they get Detroit in week 6 after they've had 4 or 5 weeks to kind of work out maybe some of the kinks that they have.
Yeah, I can see. I also think 4-2 because it's possible that they win at least one of those. I mean, technically, it's possible they could win all 3 of those games, but I think it's possible that they win one of those 3 games. That's why I think 4-2. I think it's fair. Okay. I think we agree. New Orleans, Giants, and Pittsburgh are.
I will be picking the Cowboys.
I'll probably be picking the Cowboys and all those. We'll have to see what happens. I'll probably be picking the Cowboys. So I think they can win at least one of those 3 games. It might be more unrealistic for them to go 2-1 during those 3 games, but still. So 4-2 and 2-4. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'll say 2-4 because they should beat the Giants in Pittsburgh.
Okay. So week 7 is a bye. Week 8 at San Francisco. Week 9 at Atlanta. Week 10 at Philly. Week 11 at Houston, and then hosting Houston on Monday Night Football. And week 12 at Washington. So this is the part. This is a really tough stretch of games here. How they navigate through these 5 games, or really the 4 games, I will say, because Washington, they can be Washington. So I think floor. I think it's safe to say like floor 1 and 4 is a floor. How many of these 4 games do you think they can win? Actually, I can tell you right now, San Francisco is going to be a loss because even under Dan Quinn, they absolutely destroyed that defense.
I think Atlanta and Houston, or Atlanta and Philly, are really the only 2 games that they have a chance in. I think San Francisco and Houston are going to be too good.
Okay.
Because to me, I say that San Francisco's defense is really good. D'Amico Ryans is the defensive coordinator that has completely stifled the Cowboys over the last 2 or 3 years. I know he was in Houston last year and they didn't play, but before that, he just absolutely was able to scheme up total mismatches on the defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. So I really think, looking at it, 2-3.
Well, they're going to be Washington. I think 3-2.
3-2 is the ceiling. Sorry.
Yeah. I think 3-2. 1-5 is the floor. 3-2 is the ceiling. And so I can agree with that for sure. And so then wrapping up the final 6 games here. So New York Giants on Turkey Day, week 13, hosting them. Week 14, hosting Cincinnati on Monday Night Football. A lot of primetime games. I think 7 primetime games. That's insane. Week 15 at Carolina. Week 16, hosting Tampa Bay on their final primetime game on Sunday Night Football. Week 17 at Philly. Week 18 at Washington. Much more subdued end to the schedule. So this is where if they can get through that middle portion relatively unscathed, with regular loss. Honestly, then too, they could only lose to Houston as well. Really help them out with their overall conference record when it comes to tiebreakers towards the end of the season. This is a stretch here where I think 5-1 is the best case scenario. I think talking about the team, like maybe they'll lose to Cincy, or maybe they'll lose to Tampa Bay, or maybe even Philly. Worst case scenario, though, I will say I think they can beat the Giants. I think they can beat Carolina for sure, Washington. So I think 3-3 I think is their floor. In my opinion.
I agree. 3-3 is probably the floor, and then 5-1 is the ceiling. So definitely an easier end to the schedule, but all in all, I think Dallas is going to struggle. So ceiling 2-4, or sorry, ceiling was that 4-2 in the first 6 games?
4-2, 3-2, and then 5-1. So it looks like we're looking at 12-5.
12-5, yeah.
12-5
is the ceiling, and then 4-13, I believe, is the
there's 2, 1,
6 and 11.
3. Yeah. 6-11. I even think too that 6-11 is actually kind of fair.
Yeah,
it's some of these that we've done where you say it's like this team could go 4-13 like that. Just doesn't seem fair. Like I don't think that's real. I think 6-11 is a possibility because you're right. If we look at this offensively, it was CeeDee Lamb. I don't want to say CeeDee Lamb or bust, but it was primarily CeeDee Lamb. And then defensively, though, with Dan Quinn, a lot of key guys moving on. There's questions. Some guys left on the offensive line as well. Is what is this team? Like what is this team going to look like? It's really going to have to fall on Mike McCarthy. And props to Mike McCarthy last year. I mean, they had a really good offensive season, and nobody really. I know this channel definitely gave him no shot at going into the 2023 season.
Yeah,
and he kind of proved us wrong. So let's see if he can do it again. I think I believe it's possible that things go poorly. This team would maybe that could go really well. But also the floor, I think, is a possibility. Maybe not 6-11, but 7-10, 8-9. Especially as these other NFC East teams, if they answer questions, like if Jaden Daniels is similarly replicates as the C.J. Stroud performance last year, the Washington team, ironically, it'd be Dan Quinn, takes that step forward. If the Daniel Jones and the Giants figure some stuff out, if Philly bounces back. So that's where there's some of those questions that those teams need to answer. But that being said, though, too, if they don't, I think they're probably well, I don't say the most talented because I think on paper the Eagles might be the most talented, but Dallas can contend with them. With their personnel in the field and how they can run up the score, I think they can contend with any team.
Yeah, I think Dallas, like top end talent. You look at like CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott. I think is controversially probably in the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. There's some other guys you could maybe argue that are ahead of him, but like Micah Parsons is one of the best edge rushers. Trayvon Diggs, when healthy, is one of the best corners. I look at after that, and I know Deron Bland had a historic season last year with pick sixes. I really think this Dallas defense feasted on some really bad teams. And granted, they play a lot of really bad teams this year, but they feasted on some really bad teams. When they actually played teams with competent offenses, they definitely struggled and didn't look nearly as good. Example, the Green Bay game. And Green Bay hit their stride at the perfect time. So that might be maybe a bad example. But I just think looking at it, they were exposed in that game.
Green Bay arguably should have won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, they shot themselves in the foot against San Francisco, and I think they would have beat Detroit. And then they definitely, I don't say definitely, but they probably would have beat Kansas City. I think they would have run over, just thrown all over that defense, just with the way they were playing.
They wouldn't have made the stupid mistake San Francisco did, like leaving Chris Jones unblocked on third and 8 in the red zone.
Something like that, yeah. So, but Cowboys, though, I think they're going to have the most parity, I think, on meeting their ceiling or meeting their floor. Because some teams, like when we've gone through this, as I've said, you go through it like best case scenario, worst case scenario, like it's possible, but maybe not. But like they're probably going to be somewhere in the middle. I feel like the Cowboys, they have the most potential to hit either or. At the same time. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what Cowboys team we get in 2024.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. This is going to be a team that's very heavily in the spotlight with all those primetime games. So I'm looking forward to it. But let's go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of the Cowboys offseason. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What do you think their floor and ceiling will be? And other than that, we will see you guys next time.